For Maitland.
Thank you, Mr Temporary Speaker. I rise to speak today about an issue of great importance to many people in my electorate, and that is the provision of appropriate quality social housing. And I would like to take the House through some of the issues that I have come across in my electorate office in the last few months, just particularly as an example of some of the issues that we are facing in Maitland with ageing infrastructure and houses that are falling down literally around people's ears. So one night, a couple of weeks before Christmas in 2017, I had a lady contact me through Facebook who told me that her house in Metford was having a roof collapse. So when I spoke to her about it, she told me that she had rung the Department of Housing and she had not been able to get on to anyone that could help her. Now, this was not helped, of course, by the fact that where people need to ring when they are calling about problems with their housing, the maintenance line actually goes to Link to Home. So she is not homeless, she is a client of social housing, but she has to ring a homelessness line to actually get assistance in helping her house to be repaired. She went in there and she got through finally to someone and was told that it would be a wait of up to 3 weeks to get the roof fixed. This was 7 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday night. There was a huge storm coming in my electorate, and we are very famous for our storms and the damage that they do through hail and other sorts of things. She called the SES to come and try and tarp the house. The house couldn't be tarped because it was such a large area of the roof, it would have been dangerous. In fact, the only option the SES had in this case was to tarp inside the house to hope that if the water got through the roof and it collapsed, that she would be able to survive. Now, at no time did housing say to her that she should leave their house that night. They had the 3-week deadline on her. After that time, she finally did get through to someone, and they came, I think, on the Monday morning. We escalated it as much as we could. When they finally arrived, they said, "Oh, you better get out of here straight away, and you can't go back into your house, and you're going to have to move." Now, the history of this house was termites had been found several years before on the fence, which was joining to a private property. She had reported this to housing. They had got a quote for a new fence to fix the termite problem. Nothing had been done. That's disgraceful. Then when I went into the house, on the right-hand side of the house, as if faced the road, up on the ceiling, there was a plank of wood actually underneath the ceiling, bolted in, which was the attempt that housing had to address a collapse on that side of the house. Mr Temporary Speaker, where the house was actually collapsing was on the left-hand side of the house, with the tiles falling through and a huge gap in the roof. It was a huge risk. This woman in her 50s, her mother, elderly mother, suffering dementia, living there as well. So they're told, now you've got to get out in 2 weeks. We've found another place for you to go. You're going to lose your 3rd bedroom. We'll pop you into a 2-bedroom townhouse. And can you get that all done by Christmas? Thanks. Totally inappropriate. Housing had failed her for the 3rd time, finally decides that they're going to actually put her into other accommodation. They've agreed with her that she's living in a dangerous house, and she's got 2 weeks before Christmas to do it. This is just one example of the problems that we are having in our community. I've got another woman in my community who lives in Woodbury who's been told by the Minister for Housing, who hasn't been to her house, I might add, Minister for Social Housing. I've been there with my staff, I've had a look, and that kitchen that the Minister for Housing says is okay, Mr Temporary Speaker, is not okay. It's a disgrace. It is an old house, it's had fair wear and tear, but after 20, 30 years, it needs replacing properly, and it is a disgrace that she is having to live in those conditions. I have another fellow who moved from another social housing property in my area, in my community, to an area because they couldn't address systemic problems with bullying and antisocial behaviour for him. So they moved him on. He's got a son who's got a massive problem with asthma. He's moved into a house with mould, problems with the bathroom. They have tried to repair it, but they can't do it properly. When you walk into the house, you can smell the mould. And housing is saying, no, you won't get new carpet on that, we're not going to do the floor. What they actually did, Mr Speaker, when they had the hole in the floor, was they just put a piece of wood on top of the carpet like that while they fixed it. It's absolutely outrageous. Mr Speaker, Housing in my community needs to take responsibility. It comes from the Minister, the lack of resourcing, and that is something that this government is failing in my community, and I urge the Minister to take action immediately. Thank you.
I call